This video will go over how to take a function or an equation that's written in standard form and convert it to vertex form. So again, standard form would look something like y equals 2x squared plus 5x plus 6. And when we look at this, we can't identify the vertex. But if the equation was written like this, then we would know the vertex would be 3, 4. So we're going to take something that looks like this and convert it to something like that looks like this. Now, we've already kind of done this when we learned in 9.1 how to complete the square. Okay, so again, we're going to learn some steps to go from standard form to make it look like this. So where it has the parentheses and the squared, which we've already learned how to change a problem so that it, with completing the square, in order to put in the square into the problem. So we're going to revisit completing the square here. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first example here, and let's go through these steps as we do example 11 here. So the first step is that you want to factor out the leading coefficient. So that means we want the x squared in the x term, and we're going to put the constant on the outside. So if this has a number right here, we want to factor it out. So again, our goal is to make our equation. So I want to write this down because this is going to help me remember these steps. I'm going to write this down. This is my goal. So the first step is this. This is the first step. If there is a number for a, so right here, I want to, step 1, put the a value, which it's just 1, so I don't need to do anything, in front of parentheses like this. And I want this number right here, the number without the variable, to be here at the end, like that. So I'm going to have the x squared plus the 8x inside here. So that was step 1. So put the x's in parentheses, put the one without the x on the outside. Okay. Step 2, we're going to go ahead and complete the square. So complete the square. So remember, that's when you divide by 2, take the b value, divide by 2, and then whatever you get, you're going to take whatever you get here and square it. So we're going to take this number right here. So this is step 2. We're going to take the 8 and divide by 2, and then take that value and square it. So take the 4 and square it. Okay, so that was step 2. Okay, step 3, you're going to multiply whatever number we just got here by the a value. So since the a value here, the number out in the front was 1, it's just going to stay 16. And then you're going to put this number right here. And then whatever you get when you multiply this 1 to this 16, you have two choices. You could either, since this is 16, the opposite of that is negative 16. So if I just go and add 16 to this side, if I put negative 16 here, these cancel and make 0. That's one way to do it. Or the other way is, if I'm going to put 16 on one side, I have to go put 16 on the other side. And then what happens, to get the y by itself, you're going to end up getting rid of this. And that is why you could just put minus 16 here. So let me recap here. Step 3. You're going to take this number right here and put it inside the parentheses there. Then you're going to multiply this number right here, whatever it is. In another problem, it might be 4. You multiply these two together and put the opposite here at the end. Or, if you put 16 here, put 16 on the other side and then get rid of it. Either way, but this is why we're putting the opposite there because it's just going to get brought back over. Okay, now why did we do this? Well, we did this because now we can factor this trinomial and it's going to have a square. Oh, I forgot so the reason why we did this is because it's basically like adding 0. Okay, so why did we do this? Because now you can factor this. What multiplies to 16 and adds to 8? That should not be hard or take you a long time because it should always be right here. This number right here should multiply to 16 and add to 8. So that means we can write this like this. X plus 4 to the second power, since there's two of them. And then 13 minus 16 is negative 3. So we have just put the equation in vertex form. So y equals x plus 4 squared minus 3 is in vertex form. Then when it's in vertex form, we can identify the vertex. The vertex is the opposite of this, and then the negative 3. Now, let's say we made a mistake. If we made a mistake here, then isn't this going to be wrong too, because we're going to have the wrong numbers? So the point of this is to go from standard form into vertex form. But if I want to check that this is right, remember we learned earlier in this section in 9.5, video 1, part 1, that to find out what this number is right here, you could just do negative b over 2a. So if I want to see if this is right, I'm going to take b, a, b, and c, and I'm going to put negative 8 over 2a. And we would get negative 4. So then I would say, okay, that's right. If I wanted to check the negative 3 is right and that I did this math, let's say, right, then I'm going to take the x out and put the negative 4 in for the x. And let's see if our answer is correct. So 16 minus 32 plus 13 is negative 3. And that's exactly what we got here. So we could always check our vertex, or if these two numbers are correct, by using the vertex formula. Okay. So let's go ahead and use these same steps. And let's go ahead and try another example. So let's take these steps here. And let's try this problem here. So the very first step is we want to, so step 1, we want to make it look like this. Okay, so that means that helps me remember I want the a value. This number right here, the first step is I want that on the outside. So I look at this and this helps me remember what I need to do. So then I'm going to have parentheses. I'm going to do the square part later, and I'm going to have the one without the x over here. And then the 2 with the x are going to go in here, but since I put the negative 2 in the front, I have to factor it out, like the GCF. So negative 2 times x squared. So I'm pretty much dividing these both by negative 2, essentially. That's what I'm doing to figure out what goes here. Because when I'm taking out the negative 2, so I'm like dividing it out and figuring out negative 2 times negative 6x. When I multiply these two here, I would get 12x. So since I'm putting this in the front, I have to divide it out from here because you're going to end up multiplying it and it will make these two here. Now we're not going to do the negative 16, anything with the negative 16, because it's not in the parenthesis. So this negative 2 is never going to distribute to it. Okay, so then the next step here is we have to figure out what number goes here so that way we can factor it. These are how I say the steps to myself. I'm saying, okay, I need to figure out what this number is so I can factor this trinomial here. So to do that, from section 9.1, the next step here is we are going to complete the square. So step 2, I'm going to take this number here, the negative 6, divide it by 2, and then square it. And that is the number that I'm going to put here in the parenthesis. Now, it says step 3 is to multiply this number here with this number here. So multiply these two. So negative 2 times 9 is negative 18. So what we didn't put 9 on this side. Because it has this number right here, we put negative 18 on the right side. So if we put negative 18 on the right, we have to put negative 18 here, or we put the opposite of negative 18, which is positive 18. So when we combine these two here, it's like I added 0 because they're opposites here. If that makes no sense to you, then instead of putting 18 here, you put negative 18 here, so then put negative 18 on this side. But then I have to get rid of this, and I'm going to add 18, so that's why the 18 belongs there. Okay, why did I do that? Because now we can factor this to look like this. So what multiplies to 9 and adds to negative 6? Again, that shouldn't be difficult because it should always be this number right here if you have it written on your paper. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9, and negative 3 plus negative 3 is negative 6. That's why we can write this as x minus 3 squared, because they're both the same. And then negative 16 plus 18 is 2. Okay, so this would be our answer here. That's what it would be in vertex form. And then because it's in vertex form, the vertex would be the opposite of this, so 3, and then 2. That would be our vertex. And again, if we want to check if that is correct, we could always use our formula to find the vertex. It's negative b over 2a. So negative 12 over 2 times negative 2. And we would get 3, and that's what we have here. And then we would plug that in for x here and see if we get the 2. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that, but that's how you could check if your vertex is correct.